Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Blind Boys Politics. And Nicholas Rod, Chris Baker here with you for another Friday morning show. Chris, why don't you start us off by giving us a weather update?
In Los Angeles, California, it's sunny and 70 with a nice sunny weekend. Houston, Texas, it's raining, 56, but a partly cloudy weekend, so it's going to turn into a somewhat decent weekend. Chicago, Illinois, cloudy and 16. Snow moving in this weekend. New York City, rain, 42, partly cloudy this weekend. So I wouldn't want to live in Chicago.
No. There's
They
been
can
enough
keep
snow
that
here lately.
weather.
Yeah, there's been enough snow
Yep.
here lately. They can keep that.
Yeah. And we'll be talking about that beautiful snow a little bit later, but they can keep the snow.
Yeah,
If
I'm not
California wants
interested.
to put their weather in an Amazon box and ship it to me, I will give you my PO box. But besides that, I really don't want anyone else's weather.
No, I pass on it. I mean, see, I'm not too terribly picky as far as temperature goes. Obviously, I like the warmth of summer and all that, and temperatures from the South, Florida, California, whatever. Either way, I'd be good with that. But at the same time, I'm not someone that holds an absolute hatred for the cold.
I get there after I've been shoveling for 5 or 6 hours. I'm like, okay, summer, come on.
Well, that makes sense, yeah. I think I'd be at that point too.
But then in the summer when it's like 90 degrees, I have the central air just blaring throughout the house.
Yeah. There's no, I swear, and I've thought about this numerous times in the past. There's no place, we can say we're happy with a certain temperature, say 70, for example. 70 is the perfect temperature
That's
or
a little
whatever.
too cold. 75, 80 is perfect.
But then if it hits 75 or 80 and we're outside for an extended period of time, we're like, this is too hot.
No. I mean, if there's humidity, yes.
Oh, humidity's the
But
worst.
if there's no humidity, I could be outside all day, 70 to really 85, because I do work outside in 90% of the summer. So 70 to 85 is like that.
85 is too much for me.
When it starts to get to 85, I'm like, okay, people drink your water, but it's not too bad. And then there's also days that I've worked outside 8 hours when it's 100 degrees. So I've done it all.
85 is
I've done
too much for me
the
to be
negative to 100.
Yeah. You've got that 100-degree
So I've experienced it all.
experience. Yeah.
It's wonderful, Nick. I hope you get to pleasure it someday.
I'll pass. I'll stay inside. Thank you.
I was thinking, people have really been spoiled with central air. I know you don't have central air. You just have the air conditioner in the window, and I used to have that. But then we moved into our current house and it has central air. When I tell you, I will never be able to live in a house without central air, I mean it.
Yeah, I've never experienced central air for an extended period of time, really.
Oh, it's great. Like, people experience it in office buildings and stuff like that, but it's a totally different experience at home.
Yeah.
And anyone that has that, they can totally agree with me on that.
No, I mean, it sounds great, but, not knowing at all what it's like to live with it, at home or anything like that, I definitely have no clue what it's like. No experience. So, I don't know what I'm missing out on.
The only downside is if you don't have a furnace that's compatible with it, you need to get the whole furnace replaced and the central air unit put in.
Yeah.
And it's a little pricey.
That'll make
But
your
if you
wallet
do have
cry.
a furnace compatible with it, I mean, But if you do have a furnace that's compatible with it, because I actually have looked into this because I was genuinely curious of like how much that would cost.
Right.
Because I was thinking, like that's gonna be a whole new redocking, and like that sounds really expensive. It's really not. You can do it for like $2,000 to $3,000.
It's not quite as bad as I thought it'd be.
Compared to if you had to put in an all new furnace and everything, you're looking at close to 15,000.
Yeah. Furnaces,
depending on, of course, the size of your house.
Yeah. But with that little.
But I'm glad you came to. Excuse me. How dare you? With that being said, I'm glad you came to my TED Talk on central air and furnaces. I am a certified construction worker, not. So I definitely knew what I was talking about, not. Do not take any construction advice from me because your house might go kaboom. So the lawyers told me to put that in. I don't know why, but they told me to. Moving into something that I do know what I'm talking about.
That might be a good idea.
You think?
Maybe just
so budget reconciliation. Yeah, probably heard it a lot this week. That's been kind of the big talk of the town through this stimulus plan. But before we can talk about the specific stimulus plan, we need to explain budget reconciliation. And you probably started hearing that around the Monday time, but things will make a lot more sense to you if we explain to you what it is first.
Alrighty, yeah. So essentially, it's a long process. It could take all of February for this specific instance of it. This allows the majority party to quickly pass legislation. This maneuver can be used on federal spending revenue as well as debt relief. For this to work, all you need is the simple majority vote instead of the 60 votes.
Yes, President Biden does want bipartisan support for this stimulus package. With that being said, the Republicans have been very vocal and unified, saying that the bill is expensive and the stimulus checks are not targeted enough. The president does say that the country needs a stimulus now and do not have the time to wait. Democrats have the votes and will push this through if needed, which we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So they do have the votes to push this through, even if they don't have the Republicans' votes. They can push this through by themselves.
So reconciliation has been used, in the past. It started back in the 1980s. It's been used by both parties. The most recent example of this would be in 2017 for President Trump's tax cuts. But yeah, it's history, at least a little bit.
Looking at the stimulus negotiation, that's what everyone wants to know. They don't want to really know fine details of it. Everyone kind of wants to know the stimulus. So for that aspect, President Biden met with 10 senators Tuesday to talk about significantly lowering the stimulus proposal. Obviously, there was no deal made. No one expected there to be a deal made. After the nearly 2-hour-long meeting at the White House, Susan Collins did have these remarks, and we will play that here.
And it was a very good exchange of views. I wouldn't say that we came together on a package tonight. No one expected that in a 2-hour meeting.
Over the weekend, 10 Republicans introduced a $618 billion stimulus proposal as a counteroffer to President Biden's stimulus proposal. The GOP plan is not really all that different compared to the president's plan. The only difference is the amount of money going into each area.
An example of this is in President Biden's plan, he wants a stimulus for $1,400 for American peoples. The GOP plan was $1,000 only to a smaller group of Americans.
So we want to be clear about two things here. First, President Biden does want to go big on the stimulus package. He wants to put as much money into it as possible. And also, just because these 10 Republicans are against the plan, the 10 that we just talked about with the counteroffer, that doesn't mean that the rest of the Republicans in the Senate feel the same.
So let's look at how these votes are going to shake out. There are two different routes President Biden can take: A, the bipartisan route, or B, the budget reconciliation route. So let's do some political math, why don't we, just for fun. If he wants bipartisan support in the Senate for this package, he needs 60 votes, meaning all 50 Democrats and all independents, along with 10 Republicans to all vote yes. If he wants to go the budget reconciliation route, he needs all 50 Democrats and independents and the vice president to vote yes.
All right, let's do some theorizing, shall we? So, if he went with the GOP plan, he'd probably get the support of the 10 Republicans who proposed it. Most likely would have lost support from the Democrats, and this would have meant that the bill failed. So if he goes the route of the $1.9 trillion stimulus, he loses all the Republicans, and the bill would fail again.
So, since the budget reconciliation is the path that is being pursued, there can still be negotiations going on, but this is the path that's going to be taken in the meantime. So, what's next? Because the Democrats are moving forward in this way, there are several additional steps that need to be taken to pass the stimulus that aren't normally included on a stand-alone bipartisan bill. So there is 6 steps to make this possible. Step 1 is on Tuesday, the Senate voted 50-49 to proceed to debate on the budget process and reconciliation directives. What the reconciliation directives is this is where the $1.9 trillion stimulus items would be interjected.
Then we move on to step 2. The Senate will have 50 hours to debate on this budget resolution.
Step 3, amendments can be made by both Democrats and Republicans and start Thursday.
Then we move on to step 4. Several House committees will take those amendments and will write them into legislation to make it happen. Multiple committees will be coming up with all these separate bills. The House and Senate Budget Committee will compile all of these different bills into one so that there's just one for each chamber. This process could take weeks.
Step 5, another debate, and the full House and Senate will vote on the big bills that now include the reconciliation directives and President Biden's stimulus plan.
And then we get to step 6. Amendments may be offered, and this process could take the rest of the month, if not longer.
So you're going to start hearing Vote-a-roma. You might not know what Vote-a-roma is, so we're going to tell you what that is because that started yesterday as well. So remember when we told you about the amendments could be made during the budget reconciliation process? Well, in the Senate, there's this process to introduce these amendments, and is very specific and known as the Vote-a-roma.
These amendments are going to be front and center in the process of passing President Biden's stimulus package with only Democrat support. So the Vote-a-roma is a marathon-style voting session on several amendments. Any senator can introduce them, and they can introduce an unlimited number of them. These amendments are brought to the floor and debated on, voted on, and a lot of times it's in a very short amount of time, sometimes as short as 10 minutes. These can also go on for hours, so it really all depends.
There are actually only times a senator can vote in a vote-a-roma. Senate Republicans have already met for their strategy of the upcoming vote-a-roma, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says they have already put multiple controversy topics up on the vote-a-roma.
All right, so we have finally reached the end of all of the stimulus updates and everything going on there. For now, we'll have more for you most likely on Monday, and there'll be things coming out continuously after that. But for now, we go into another hot topic, and that is the impeachment trial of President Trump. And we now have the impeachment House strategy. The answer to their strategy is in an 80-page document that came out this week. The House managers broke it down into 18 sections. So within this document, the managers make an argument that this whole thing doesn't revolve just around January 6th, which was the day of the Capitol attack, but it also just surrounds the actions taken by the former president in the weeks and months leading up to that day. They say that he made every attempt to overturn the election results through court cases and other means.
In the document, it says when President Trump didn't get his way, he incited a mob to Washington, exhorted them into a frenzy, and aimed them like a loaded cannon down Pennsylvania Avenue. And rather than take immediate steps to quell the violence and protect lives, President Trump left his vice president and the Congress to fend for themselves. They go on to say President Trump was clearly impeached while he was still a sitting president, and the Constitution says the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. Then when it comes to the First Amendment's defense, the members say, fundamentally, the First Amendment protects private citizens from the government. It does not protect government officials from accountability on their own abuses in office. So then after that, we move into President Trump's defense.
Yes, we do. His new lawyers, because as we discussed, numerous of his lawyers before had quit. So his new lawyers filed an 11-page response. These lawyers, they repeatedly argue two different defenses. First, that the trial itself is unconstitutional because he is no longer in office, and also that President Trump is protected by his First Amendment right. So first, in the argument surrounding the trial being unconstitutional, his lawyers used pretty much one argument to back it up, and that is the fact that President Trump no longer holds a public office, and that in itself should make the entire trial kind of a moot point. And they basically say that they can't convict him because he no longer holds office.
For the First Amendment right, his lawyers say misconstrues protected speech and fails to meet the constitutional standard for an impeachable offense. If the First Amendment protected only speech the government deemed popular in current American culture, it would be no longer protected at all. President Trump's lawyers denied he incited the mob on January 6th. And if you don't know which audio that is most referred to, we'll play that for you here.
We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And in response to that, his lawyers denies the phrase had nothing to do with the action of the Capitol, as it was clearly about the need to fight for election security in general.
So then we move to Thursday, or in other words, yesterday as of the time of release. The House managers wanted President Trump to go on the witness stand. So Jamie Raskin, the lead House manager, was the one that sent the letter asking for this. He's asking President Trump to testify on his own behalf because the former president has denied factual allegations that were put into the article of impeachment. And also in the letter refers back to another Supreme Court case that President Trump was involved in. And we have a quote from that, and it says, "You are not immune from legal process while serving as president. There is no doubt that you can testify in these proceedings."
The House managers go on to say in the letter that President Trump can testify with cross-examination, of course, as early as Monday, February 8th, but no later than Thursday, February 11th. The House manager finished his letter by saying, if he doesn't testify, quote, "We reserve any and all rights, including the right to establish at trial that you refuse to testify, supports a strong adverse influence regarding your actions and inaction on January 6th, 2021, end quote. They asked for an answer from his lawyers, which they did later Thursday afternoon, of him denying that he would testify under oath.
So that is the updated information that we have for you about the impeachment proceedings. There will be more, of course. Things are, still just we're still just getting into things. So we will have more for you when more comes out. But now we move into a bit of COVID-19 related news because there's now a mask mandate. This involves any form of federal transportation. So planes, trains, buses, subways, and ferries, and also ride-sharing vehicles. In all of these forms of transport, you need to be wearing a mask. And if you don't, if you're caught without a mask in one of these locations, in one of these forms of transportation, you are in fact breaking federal law. The federal government had moved on President Biden's executive order to implement a mask mandate. That means wearing one in airports, bus terminals, train stations, and any type of transportation center from the moment that you step in and all the way up until you leave.
This order is pretty particular about the type of mask you wear. The mask has to have 2 layers of material to cover both your nose and mouth snugly. Bananas, scarves, and shirts do not cut. If you're wearing a face shield or goggles, those also aren't enough. You have to wear a mask underneath.
So the order does not apply to, brief moments of drinking and eating in cars and trucks when no one else is in there, or if you need to identify yourself to law enforcement. It also doesn't apply to children under the ages of 2 or to people that are actually exempt because of the clear definition of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And yes, they can ask for documentation in these situations. Employees in these transportation centers are required to make you wear a mask. If you are caught without one in one of these facilities, they can remove you.
So transitioning a little bit, we are nearing the 4-week mark since the attack on the Capitol. While there are so many arrests being made, like Troy Albert, He was arrested after he was photographed at the Capitol with his painting company along with its number on the back of his sweatshirt. In an Instagram Live, AOC opened up about her experience in the attack and opened up about being a sexual assault victim. We have a little clip of that audio here.
Folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize. These are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma compounds on each other.
No, this is not about policy. It's about humanity. Politics aside, we're going to start hearing more and more stories, maybe not like this particularly, but many people don't realize that politicians, they are humans too. Things like this, they're going to be traumatic to a lot of people. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things coming from this.
Yeah, so there definitely could be, like you said, Chris, there definitely might be more stories that come out, and we can almost expect to see more come out as time goes on. But moving away from that kind of topic, and we transition into the Super Bowl. The big game is happening this Sunday, and there are some records being broken at this year's Super Bowl. For example, Sarah Thomas is the very first woman to act as an official. And there will also be 2 female coaches who are part of the Buccaneers. And also beyond that, Tom Brady is going into his 10th Super Bowl.
So, Nick, many people might not know this, but you are our sports correspondent. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Now, I don't want your personal feelings of who do you want to win. I need to know the cold, hard truth. Who do you think is actually going to win?
Well, I watched last year's Super Bowl with the Chiefs. If you don't know, the game is between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. So I watched last year's Super Bowl, which had the Chiefs in it. They won it, and it was an amazing game. I loved watching that team play. I'm not even a Chiefs fan by heart, but I loved watching that team play. However, I cannot ever count Tom Brady out. He terrorized the NFL with the Patriots for years and years and years. And, you can never count him out to win. So it's hard to say, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
You think the Chiefs are going to win? All right.
I think
so. I'm gonna hold you to that. So if the Chiefs win, congratulations to you. You're smart. You get to keep your job as the sports correspondent. If you are wrong, you are fired.
Okay.
Also, I'm going to be placing bets that the Chiefs won because our sports correspondent told me so. So if I lose money, that's also your fault. This will probably be the last time we talk about the Super Bowl. It might be mentioned in Monday's episode, possibly Friday's, depending on how the cookie crumbles with other news going on. But for a definite in-depth analysis of the game, check our Medium article Tuesday. Nick will be writing an in-depth article about it Tuesday morning. If you want the link to that, it will be on Twitter, so follow us on Twitter and read the article.
All right. Well, that is it for us as far as the normal news goes. Chris, are you ready to get into some rapid news?
I would love to.
All right. So first, Groundhog's Day just passed a couple days ago, and the groundhog did see his shadow, which means 6 more weeks of winter.
Some parts of the Northeast got hit by the northeastern quite hard. Parts of Pennsylvania saw up to 32 inches, and New York City got a little bit more than a foot of snow. All right, Nick. My favorite part of the episode. Tell me some good news. Now,
all right.
Can I say this without offending you?
What's that?
Is it going to be about food?
No, this one is not about food.
Okay, that's good because I am getting a little hungry. So,
yeah, there's no food involved in this one.
Okay.
So, you guys might. It's hard to ignore, but you guys, I'm sure, probably know about the GameStop situation in the stock market, or at least you might have heard of it in passing at the very least. A lot of people are complaining about what's going on with the GameStop situation, but there was one person that really stood out as far as all this goes, and he's a 20-year-old college student, and he managed to make about somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 from the stock market with the whole GameStop situation. And he decided to use a bit of that money to help children. So he bought 6 Nintendo Switches along with a bunch of games for the consoles and donated them all to the Minnesota Children's Hospital.
Holy crap.
Yeah, in total, all the consoles and the games and everything, it all totaled up to almost $3,000. So, those kids, they're already using the Switches, they're already playing the games, and the hospital has publicly thanked him. Parents have been messaging him, expressing their thanks and everything like that. And he's saying that if he comes across another opportunity like this to, where he gains in the stock market or anything like that, he's looking to donate again.
That's amazing. Because not many people would, A, not many people made any money from GameStop, and B, many people would not think of other people. They would be like, yay, I won $20,000. I'm going to spend it on myself.
Right.
He, on the other hand, spent roughly $3,000 and gave it to a children's hospital.
Yeah, it's just heartwarming to see. It really is. 20 years old, you get that much money. It's very, very easy to let that go to your head. Very easy. So
I'm sure his parents are, very proud of him, especially, he is a college student, so he could be spending that money probably on college student loans or anything like that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm sure the messages that he's getting from these families thanking him are very emotional messages, but that's a really cool story, actually. I like that story.
I loved seeing that because, out of all the chaos that came from the GameStop debacle and all that, it was just nice to see something that heartwarming come out from it.
Well, with that being said, it is the end of this Friday morning episode. Make sure you follow us on all of our social medias, linked down in the show notes. Follow us on our Blind Boys Politics Twitter account for all the latest breaking news 24 hours a day, pretty much. But until Monday morning, to catch up on all the over the weekend news, have a good weekend, guys. See ya.
All right, see ya, everyone.